Hi, I'm Kelsey from Bluesky Feed Creator. In this tutorial, I'll be going over how to use search operators in the capturing posts area for your feed dashboard. We'll be looking at using wildcards, using the AND operator, how to search for a term with a plus in it, using the exception operator, combining the and exceptions operators, from handle, post from handle, and reply to handle. All of these can be used in any of your capturing posts boxes. Before we start, remember you can check out our other videos to find out how to get started using Bluesky Feed Creator and a basic rundown of how to create a feed. This video is a good addition to that one to dial in your terms and get you capturing the content you want. First, I'm going to open up Bluesky Feed Creator. We're just at blueskyfeedcreator.com. If you don't have an account yet, but you want one, you should try our video getting started with Bluesky Feed Creator if you get stuck at any point in that sign up process. I'm going to click on Open Your Dashboard. Here are my feeds, and I'm going to be looking at this one today, WAG's testing feed. Let's start with using wildcards. I'm going to use the term tester box down here. We have these attached to each of our terms areas, so exclusion terms, manual approval terms, and inclusion terms. I'm going to start with the inclusion terms. So wildcards are represented in Bluesky Feed Creator as asterisks. They mean any other letter/number combination could be in here. The simplest example I've got for you is that you can say hashtag garden star instead of collecting, this is what this one covers, it would be the same as collecting hashtag garden, hashtag gardening, hashtag gardens, hashtag gardener, hashtag gardeners, even hashtag garden center. All of these things are included under this top term where there's a wildcard in that spot. And that wildcard can be this, or it can be this, or this, or this, or this, or this. And they don't have to be words. So you do have to be a bit careful at times. I just want to show you how Garden Star works. So I've now got rid of all of those other ones, and I'm just making sure they're also got rid of in the grey box down here. So let's try I love hashtag gardening. There we go. And you actually saw it light up as soon as it had garden in there. Okay. I am a hashtag gardener. There we go. So you can see how that works. You do have to be careful if you're putting a wildcard at the end of a word, which also sits inside other words. So for example, cat star, which is great if we want to say, here's my cat. Or, I have 3 cats. But it's bad because it would also pick up the word catamaran and caterpillar. And if you have the wild card at the start of the word, because I don't know, you might be looking for tabby cat, orange cat, though there's no space here, but this is just for an example. That would also pick up things like scatter and locate. So they can be a bit problematic. It's worth thinking about what the wildcards can actually mean in your feed. Now, I live in New Zealand and our indigenous language is Māori, which has macrons or tohuto, which are also called portai, which means hat, above some of the vowels, and people sometimes forget to put them in. And so I often use wildcards instead of including both the term with and the term without the macron. So instead of doing this, I could have both of those terms included if I turn that A into a wildcard, like this. Okay, so now I can say, look at this great garden in Whangarei, or maybe I have said in Whangare, like so, and either of those will work. I'll just go back to WAG's feed. Here we go. Perhaps I want to mess around in my exclusion terms. So if you want to exclude posts with too many hashtags, you can use wildcards too. For example, if you put hashtag star, space, hashtag star, space, hashtag star. This would exclude all posts which have 3 or more hashtags, but 2 would be fine. And you can decide how many you want to allow just by adding more hashtags in the same sequence. And you would also want that in between star. So if I do it like this, now 3 hashtags are okay, but 4 hashtags are not. So the hashtag represents any hashtag, i.e., the hash sign with text after it, because I've put the asterisk in here. So any hashtag would be included by this. I'm just going to save this so I can show you testing my terms. Save. Though, of course, I can mess around with the terms inside test your terms as well. So here we go. Now, my inclusion term is hashtag garden star. So maybe I'm going to put, here's a photo from my hashtag garden. So currently that would be included using the inclusion terms. And remember, this is going to turn green, which could give you the idea that it's going to be included. But because we're testing exclusion terms, and we can see it says here save exclude terms, what the green tick will mean is that it would be excluded. And if you were testing your terms in the manual approval area, the green tick would mean that those posts would be kicked into manual approval. So at the moment, here's a photo from my hashtag garden is fine. But what if I was like hashtag zinnias, hashtag dahlias, hashtag, it's already mad about it because I've put that hashtag in, hashtag sunflowers. But if I get rid of one of them, then I'll be back to the approved 3 hashtags. So you see what I mean? And if you only wanted hashtags that were right next to each other, then you could leave out these in-between stars. So I could go, here's a photo from my garden, hashtag garden, hashtag zinnias, hashtag dahlias, hashtag, oh, too many hashtags. Okay, so that's how that works. It's really, really helpful. Okay, I'm going to go back to WAG's testing feed now. We have got using the AND operator, which is a plus. So we're no longer a garden feed, now we're a birding in Canada feed. So maybe I only want to search for posts containing both the terms Canada and, see, I've written the plus, birding. So with this, and I'm just going to go and save it so that we can test the terms, a post that mentioned Canada would not be matched. A post that mentioned birding would not be matched, but if it mentioned both of them, then it would be matched. So let's see. I live in Canada and I love birding. There we go. So we can see that that one is matching. And you can also combine this with wildcards. So if I go Canada plus bird wildcard, then we're going to need to say, I live in Canada and I love birds. There we go. I love birding. Yes. I love bird. There we go. Okay. I live in Canada and I am a birder. Bingo. Okay. So you could also change it to this. And then you could do, I am Canadian and I am a birder, and that would also match. Okay, so if you're wanting to search for a term with the plus in it, that can get tricky because we use the plus as a search operator. And so you use a backslash to, we call it escape, to escape the operator. So the backslash is up the top of your keyboard under backspace. It's not the usual slash that we use all the time. So in my example here, I've got Disney Plus. And the way that Bluesky Feed Creator will search for this is they will ignore that this does another job. The service will only look at it as Disney Plus. It also ignores the backslash. So I can show you that working, just saving again. And if I go test your terms, and I've got this, so I love watching Disney Plus. There we go. So even though that search operator is in there and it has another job to do, we are still able to search for the term that has a plus using the backslash ahead of it. You don't need to put anything after it, just the backslash ahead of the plus. So now back to WAG's feed. I'm going to talk about using the exception operator, which is the minus. So you can use the minus, the sky, or the hyphen to craft terms which have exceptions. You do want to watch out for this one because if you put two hyphens in, then you're making a comment. Okay, so this is a comment. And what the two hyphens at the start of a line mean in Bluesky Feed Creator is that we won't search for this. This is not a term that we're going to search for. The two hyphens mean we will ignore it. Okay, so let's say that I want to do an inclusion about dahlias. We're a dahlia feed now, and I'm going to search for the term dahlia as long as it doesn't mention Final Fantasy. This might seem like a very specific example. It's a real example. Dahlia is a character in one of the Final Fantasy games. Okay, so I'm going to save this and I'll show you what it looks like in testing terms. So here we go. We've got Dahlia and Final Fantasy. That's really interesting. I've never looked at this, but you can see how the comment looks on the testing terms function. Okay, so here's a dahlia from my garden. Happy days. I also like playing Final Fantasy. Not allowed, banned. Maybe you want to do the same with the word character. So we want to put dahlia minus character minus Final Fantasy, or vice versa. It doesn't make any difference. So then we can say, here's a dahlia from my garden. Good. I like playing Final Fantasy. Not allowed. Or my favorite character is, and it's not allowed anymore. Okay, so the second hyphen works like an or. So dahlia posts included, yes, unless, here is the exception, unless they mention character or they mention Final Fantasy. You can also exclude things with exceptions. So I'm going to go back to WAG's testing feed. You can also exclude things with exceptions. For example, a sunset photography feed could exclude, so now we are a sunset photography feed, also four hashtags, very bad, no, not allowed. Okay, so landscape is excluded unless it includes the word sunset. So let's go test your terms. And what I'm looking to see is that the word landscape should give me a green tick, i.e. it would stop my photo post from being included in the feed. But if I include the word sunset, then it shouldn't be excluded. So here is a landscape photo I took. Okay. That is currently excluded. It's got the green tick. We're working on exclude terms, therefore it has triggered them. Here is a landscape photo I took of the sunset. And now it is no longer excluded. We can see that there's no green tick. This sample post would not be excluded according to our current rule. You can also combine the exception operator and the plus operator. So if we go back to WAG's feed and we're thinking about dahlias and Final Fantasy again, maybe you want to exclude posts that mention character as well as Final Fantasy. So let's go and test this. See, I haven't saved. So that has not updated my box that comes with me into test your terms, but you can also just write them in there. If you ever do, have a list of terms that you have finessed inside test your terms and you want to put them straight back in. That's what this button does here. And it works with all of the boxes. If you're okay with dahlia and character, but you don't want dahlia and character and Final Fantasy, then what you could do is this, dahlia but not Final Fantasy and character together. That's not okay. So then my post that says this is a dahlia from my garden, that is allowed. This is a dahlia from my garden. My favorite character in Succession is, I don't know, Roman Roy. Okay. I also like playing Final Fantasy. Banned. Not allowed. You're out. Okay. So what's happened there is there's a dahlia. So the feed service has gone, yes, I do want this post, but then the rest of the post also includes the words character and the phrase Final Fantasy. And so no longer allowed according to the rules that we have set. For the sunset photography example, you could put an and operator in front of the exception operator like this. I'll just get rid of these, get rid of this. So we're going to go sunset plus photo star, which would give us photo, photos, photograph, photographer, photography, and so on. But I don't want Sunset Boulevard, and so I'm going to exclude Boulevard from that term. I'm making that the exception to my Sunset plus Photo Star term. And then I can test it by saying things like, I took this sunset photo, and we can see that that matches up. But if I say, I took this photo on Sunset Boulevard, then it's going to exclude it. Or rather, it's not the same as excluding it, it's not going to include it. So the inclusion is not going to work for this post because it mentions the word boulevard. Remember, this works for exclusions and for manual approval terms too. So maybe you are, I'll go and do this one, maybe you're running a pizza feed, but it's pizza with dietary requirements, and you don't want to hear about the regular type of pizza. You only want to hear about pizzas that are vegan and gluten-free. So these terms here would exclude all mentions of pizza except for vegan gluten-free pizza. I suppose it could be vegan and gluten-free, but you won't know about it unless the person mentions it in their post. So remembering this as exclusion terms and the green tick means that this post would be excluded. I had pizza for dinner, right? That's going to be excluded. We can see that because it's got the green tick. I had pizza for dinner, it was vegan, still excluded, and gluten-free. Now it's allowed. So the red cross means that this is not going to trigger the exclusion rules. That would, this won't. If vegan or gluten-free is okay with you, I had pizza for dinner. It was yum. That is going to be excluded. We can see that because it's got the green tick. But if you say it was vegan, that's a different story. Not going to be excluded. What about it was gluten-free? Not going to be excluded. Happy days, pizza lovers. So that's all I've got about the plus and minus search operators. They can be used together. It's best to play around with them. I suggest opening up the Test Your Terms page and going to town there. We've got the button here, here, and here. And the only difference between them is that it will pull the terms from the box that it's next to. So if you are wanting to test that a particular thing is excluded, I would recommend using this one. And if you're testing that it's included, I would recommend using this one. Or manual approval, use the middle one. But it's up to you. And as you saw, you can chop and change the terms once you're in the Test Your Terms page. That's up to you. Now I'm going to talk about user handles as inputs to feeds. So for example, if we use the blueskyfeedcreator.com account, if you put from at blueskyfeedcreator.com into your inclusion box, this would include everything that the blueskyfeedcreator.com account has created aside from reposts. We don't find out about reposts from Bluesky, so none of our tools can actually track them. But if you do this, you will get all replies, all posts from that account. So if I were to save it, we won't see this in action because I'm not currently over there posting. But if I were, whatever I posted, whether it was a reply to someone or a post from someone, or sorry, a post about something, it would come into my feed based on this. So you can use this for excluding or including, or they can go into manual approval. That's totally fine. And when you put the handle in, what is important is that you need this after the dot information as well. So if Bluesky Feed Creator was a Bluesky social account, then this is the domain that we would want. If other users that you are inputting in this way have their own domains, like blueskyfeedcreator.com has the .com domain, then you want to use that one. It's really important. It won't work without it. Okay, so maybe you're not that interested in getting everything from a user, but maybe you just want their main posts. You would use this. You can use it for excluding, including, or putting a user's content into manual approval. And again, you need the domain name as well as the main handle name. This does the same as the from operator, like this, but it only applies to posts. They can be quote posts as well as regular posts, but it will not include replies. It also won't include reposts. And then finally, we've got the reply to operator. So that works like this. It gathers replies which have been sent to a particular handle. As above, you need to use the domain as well, and it can be put into any of the capturing posts boxes. So if there's a user who is being replied to in your feed a lot, maybe because they have lots of followers talking about similar content and those reply posts are cluttering up your feed, you can put this into the exclusion terms instead of blocking all replies, which is possible down here in the toggles. Okay, so maybe you don't want to block all replies, you only want to block replies to a certain user. Maybe you are running a sports feed and there is a coach or a manager or an owner or something that people are often replying to. You can block those replies only using their handle and the reply to operator in the exclusions box, and that way you don't have to use the toggle. Or perhaps you have lots and lots of followers yourself and your mentions are cluttered up, and so maybe you only want to collect replies to you that mention a particular topic. Like maybe it's an event such as a con. Let's make up one called Daily a Con, like this. I've put that in with a plus. So that means it's going to pull all replies to blueskyfeedcreator.com that mention DailyAcon. Okay, that's how the plus operator would work in that instance. So you can actually filter your replies to a user or to yourself right down to what do they mention. That is all that I have for you right now about search operators. I hope you found this helpful. To recap, we looked at using wildcards, which are the asterisks, using the AND operator, which is the plus, how to search for a term with a plus in it using the backslash, using the exception operator, which is the minus, combining the AND and exception operators, from handle, post from handle, and reply to handle. If you need to refer back, I'll drop timestamps in the description below to tell you where to find that part of the video. Once I've got a matching written tutorial, I'll pop that in the description box too. We upload tutorials here every so often, and you're welcome to subscribe to find out more about using Bluesky Feed Creator. If you've got a question or comment about anything you've seen in today's video, or an idea for something you're finding tricky and might like a future video to focus on, please check in with us on Bluesky at blueskyfeedcreator.com. Or if you're a current customer of ours, please feel free to get in touch via our support email. Have a great day.